I've saved the most recent version of my file as alphachannelsabound.pst, again found inside the 26 masking folder. I'm viewing the flesh and dress alpha channel along with my RGB image, just in case you're curious what's happening on screen here. All right, let's go back to the RGB composite, and I'm going to turn off flesh and dress. That is, I'm going to turn off its eyeball. Switch to the layers panel, turn off the saturation and dodge layers. We don't need them anymore. You could throw them away, I suppose. But the dodge layer in particular took a fair amount of work to create, so I say keep it. Anyway, I'm going to switch down to the background layer. And in order to isolate it, here's two different ways we could work. We could select the image by loading the mask, the final mask channel, as a selection outline, and then we could drag the selected image into a new background. But then our ability to edit that image would be fairly limited because we would only have the pixels we selected in the first place. The better way to work is to go ahead and convert this image to its own independent layer and then assign a layer mask to it based on that final mask channel. And then we'll have the entire unmodified image along with its layer mask, giving us all the flexibility in the world. All right, so to convert this background image to a layer, you double click on it. That brings up the new layer dialog box. And I'll just go ahead and call this one model, and perhaps I'll give it a capital M because the other layers have capital letters. Click OK. And now go back to the channels panel, and there's a couple different ways to load a channel as a selection outline. One is to click on it to make it active, and then to drop down to this little icon that's next door. So we've got these two icons that serve opposite purposes, right? This guy there saves the selection as a channel. This one converts a channel to a selection. So you can go ahead and click on it, and then you've got a selection outline, as we can see if I zoom on out here a little bit. But I prefer to work with that shortcut I've mentioned a few times now, but I'm going to mention again. I'll press Control-D, Command-D on a Mac to deselect the image. And if you press the Control key or the Command key on a Mac and click on a channel, so Control-click on a PC, Command-click on a Mac, you load it as a selection outline. Now, that's not the biggest shortcut on earth because it's not all that difficult to get down here to this icon. However, what I really like about that shortcut is it works in the Channels panel, it works in the Paths panel, it works in the Layers panel. So you can convert layers, channels, and paths to selection outlines across the board. Now we've got a selection outline which is every bit as good as the mask. And when I say that, of course, I don't mean the marching ants are particularly useful to us, and it's not as editable as an alpha channel is. However, it's just as representative of the selection as the final mask is. So a selection outline contains that wealth of information, including all these various levels of gray. All that softness is built into it. All right, I'm going to switch over to the Layers panel. And now I'll click on the model layer to make it active so that we switch back to the RGB image. And I'll drop down to the Add Layer Mask icon, and I'll click on it. And that goes ahead and converts the selection outline to a layer mask. And if I Alt-click on the layer mask or Option-click on it, I can see it independently of the image, and you'll see it is pixel for pixel identical to that final mask channel we saw just a moment ago. All right, the next step is to go ahead and add this model layer. I'm going to go ahead and click on the model thumbnail once again. Add this layer with its layer mask to a new background. And that background is this one right here. It's cloudsandbluesky.jpg. It comes to us from Louise of the Fotolia image library. And you'll find it inside the 26 masking folder. Now, it is exactly the same size. These two images have been sized to match each other. So one will register into place with the other. You can perform the standard, if you want to, the standard drag and drop. That is, you press the Control key or the Command key on a Mac to get the Move tool. You drag the image onto the title tab right there. And then you wait for the image to switch over, move your cursor back into the image window, and shift drop it into place, which is a lot of work, come to think of it. Here's another way to accomplish the exact same thing. Go ahead and press the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac, and then I want you to drag the model layer down onto this little page icon at the bottom of the panel. And because you have the Alt or Option key down, you force the display of this dialog box, which allows you to duplicate the layer either inside of the same composition or in another open composition. So if you go ahead and change document from alphachannelsabound.pst to cloudsandbluesky.jpg, then you will put the model and its mask, because they're linked together, into the other image window. All right, I'll click OK, and it'll seem as if nothing happened. Well, that's because Photoshop doesn't automatically switch you over to the other image. It just does what you asked it to do. If I now press Control-Tab or Command-tilde to switch to the other image, then I will see the model in place as you do as well. All right, so we have now managed to mask the image and we've composited it against a different background. However, does it look right? The answer is, well, it looks pretty good, actually. I don't think it looks horrible, but it does have a few problems here and there. Notice that we have some grays surrounding these hair details, and that gray fringing is even more noticeable in the upper left-hand corner where these small hairs are concerned. And I will show you how to absolutely make this hair look like it's endemic to this image, like it absolutely belongs, in the next exercise.